Hello everyone, welcome to You Enjoy Life, a guide to a good life. So I'm down here in Costa Rica, and if you can hear, it's maybe a little bit loud, but there's a river nearby me, and I sit at the river every day. I love to jump in the river. It's really cold and it's like being rebirthed. I actually feel like a little bit high right now just from jumping in the river. And I wanted to come on here today because it's been a little over a year since I sort of had my coming out experience, and at the time when I was going through it there was a lot swirling, and getting to live in that space for over a year now, I've made sense of a lot of things that were very confusing. So I figured I would kind of do a bit of a review of what I've uncovered and discovered in this process of sort of breaking free of my gender and sharing with friends and family and just navigating this new world. There's a lot of people out there that are confused about who they are, and to make sense of that can be scary and weird and lonely at times. And there's a lot going on in the world around like who we're supposed to be and who we need to be, and when we sort of wake up and realize that there's more to life than we thought, it's cool and it's exciting, but it's also kind of weird and disorienting. So I wanted to see if I could help guide you and share a bit of my story and maybe help you make sense of your own. Just a quick side note, super excited that I recently launched a Patreon page, and just for signing up for the Patreon you get a free download of my book. You also get access to all my old cooking videos, and on top of that, so the page, just a little bit about it, is it's deep guidance and mentorship. So we're gonna start doing live streams soon. I've been sharing a lot of videos, different practices on how to stay mindful and how to stay present. But what I'm really excited about is I'm building a course that's gonna be exclusive to the people on Patreon as a beta test, where we're gonna go through this deep guidance and mentorship. And just by being a part of the Patreon page, you get free access to that. So I just wanna give you a lot more value, and YouTube's a great place to get like some hits of inspiration, but if you really wanna dive deep and get deeper guidance from me specifically to like live your most epic, awesome life, well, maybe my Patreon will be a place to start. So click the link below, check that out. Again, any tier you get access to the whole thing. Okay, so let's talk about, what is coming out. I think when I was in high school and when I thought about like this idea, I saw people around me starting to come out, or the fear around it, it felt very distant to me. I could kind of understand it, but I thought that I knew who I was, so that I wasn't going through that. I didn't feel like I was hiding some piece of myself, and that I had to one day expose it, and I just wanted to find the right time. The truth is, when I uncovered these parts of myself last year that were like really repressed, the reason I was able to kind of break free of that was because I was healing those parts of myself that were too scared to be who I fully was. So for me, it wasn't as simple though as like, okay, I'm gay, so I'm gonna say, hey everyone, guess what, I'm gay, and oh, we knew, whatever. For me, it was more complicated because there was a lot around gender and attractions to men and women, and feeling like a man and a woman, and just not knowing how to make sense of it all. But as more things started to happen, as more people started coming out, gender fluid, non-binary, and all these terms, it's like you go on a dating website and it's like 600 things that you can be. As everything started to happen, I started to see this new possibility. And at first I tried to find a label because I recognized that I had these attractions to both men and women, and that I felt, in a lot of ways like I had a strong female side. When I dance, I get my dance on, in certain times. And I also felt like a man in other ways. I mean, I'm running up mountains barefoot. So it was confusing to say the least. And one of the big things that I was able to luckily get through was recognizing that at first I felt a lot of pressure by people I cared about to define myself, and it wasn't necessarily something they put on me or meant to, but that was like, okay, I'm not who I thought I was, so I need to tell them who I am. And then I sort of had this realization where I don't need to define myself by a label, and if having a label feels good to you, if having some sort of calling yourself gender fluid or non-binary or bisexual, like if that helps you make sense of this world and to relate to it, that's awesome. But for me, what I started to recognize was the label was only keeping me more contained, and that I had to break free of that label. So first off, I like the parts of my body, all of them. I have no intention of cutting them off or changing them or taking hormones or anything like that, and to each his own. But I have seen that there are people, and one of the reasons I want to share this video is that there are a lot of people that I've been meeting, and people that are maybe transitioning, and I'm seeing that part of it is because they don't feel good who they are, and they think that if they become something else that they will feel good. And if that's your journey, okay. But I want to remind you that you're already whole and complete, and rather it's thinking that you need to fit into a society that doesn't make sense this is a huge piece for me, thinking that I need to be part of this society that just, you're this, you're that, you have your gender this, you're this, you're this. Like, there's all these labels, even things like ADHD and different labels that have been placed upon me of being stupid or slow, thinking that that was actually real. That's what was messing me up. So when I broke free of the idea of having to have a gender, and sometimes I say like I'm this genderless fluid being just because it helps people make sense of it, but I don't associate, or identify as any one thing. I'm just who I am in every moment. And when I'm living in my truth, when I'm like fully expressed in who I am, well then it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, I can, on a form I can say male because biologically, according to, science and all the things, I have a penis and I'm a male and blah, blah, blah. That's fine. I'm not like, I don't get offended when there's a sheet that says just male or female and I have to choose. I'll just choose male. It's simple. People see me, they see male, cool. Or if there is male, female, other, I'll just click other. So I'm not so concerned about that side. But when I think about who I am and how I exist in the world, there's a lot of pressure that gets put on us to dress a certain way. Or when you go to a store, it's the men's section, the women's section. And when I broke free of that and I just started shopping with what felt right and just wearing with what felt right, everything changed. So now, having been in, since going through a divorce, being in a relationship, and now being in another relationship that I'm currently in, I'm seeing this huge shift because I'm not trying to be the man in the relationship. I'm not trying to in sexual experiences or in intimacy, whatever, trying to be the man, which is what I was doing before. I was like, okay, I'm the man, I need to show up a certain way. And I had these stereotype and ideas about how a man had to function. And now I'm just being whatever feels right, whatever I want to be. Sometimes I feel more in my feminine, more in that flow and kind of woo, and other times I feel strong and masculine in that kind of more masculine energy. And it's not to say that the feminine energy isn't strong, but it's like it's almost the yin and the yang. Like there's a hardness and a certainty to the masculine energy, and the female is more in the flow. And I love dancing between those two things. And what I'm starting to see is that, and this is my own kind of fun sort of theory, but I really think that if more people were fully authentic and fully expressed in who they were, that the whole idea of gender, beyond the body part piece, the biological piece, but what we actually consider gender to be, it would be much more fluid. I think most people would be much more fluid. In fact, I've seen a lot of people try to go so deeply one way because they want to hide that piece. They're so scared, they're so worried that if they come off as a little bit feminine, people will call them gay or fag, or there's like so much fear. And I knew what that was like growing up because I played football, I played sports, and I was worried that if I said the wrong thing or acted the wrong way, someone might call me fag, And I used to get called a fag and gay sometimes, and it hurt my feelings because I tried so hard not to be. And now it's like, I don't know, I don't care. And that's the freeingness of it. And I do want to say, I recognize, depending on the situation, it's all, it's very relative. There are some people that it's too scary to be fully expressed and where they live, and it's dangerous. And I want you to remember, I'm not here to tell you what to do. You need to, discovering life is a journey that you're on, and over time you're going to make more and more sense of it. This is just my experience of where I'm at. So yeah, that's part of, I guess, why I wanted to share this, though, is because even though we're all different, there's a connection that we share. And I know I feel so much better getting to be the full expression of myself and not trying to hide that. And I don't need to explain myself to anyone. I don't need to identify myself to anyone or label myself to anyone, because that's just more labels, it's just putting you deeper into the matrix. And if it helps in some way, that's cool. But what I've learned is not to be too attached to that label. I might say, yeah, I'm fluid. Like, oh, what's your gender? I'm just fluid. I might share part of my story if it seems like it might be relevant. But I'm not attached to it. I'm not saying this is who I am, this is how I define myself. Because I'm so much more than I could ever define. And that's a huge piece. Whatever your name, your job, your career, your life, who you are is infinitely more gigantic than this little label that we put on ourselves to define ourselves. And maybe the label helps, and maybe it's valuable to navigate through the world, but we are infinite, and we're just on this existence. I just have this body for a short period of time, and I'm going to use it in all the ways. And what's been a while is, since opening up to this whole kind of more genderless, fluid, whatever you want to call it, world, my body has been fully activated because I'm fully expressed now, and it's allowed me to, training for a marathon. I'm going to be running barefoot in the mountains in Colorado. And somehow all the things in my life have led me to that. And it wasn't through saying I'm a runner. I used to think, oh, I hated running. And then I started just getting on the trails, and I started feeling what was coming through, and my body was saying, take your shoes off, damn it, take them off. And I started taking them off, and then suddenly I was loving running because it was more like dancing, and I listened to like music and disco and Radiohead and Fish and Fela Kuti and all kinds of stuff, and I'm like dancing through the trails, and I feel amazing. Amazing, yeah. I don't know why I had to do that, but it just feels right. So yeah, we can't know who we are unless we allow who we are to come through, and the process of stripping away all the crap is usually what does that. So if you want to get deeper and more clear on who you are and you want to have some guidance, sign up for my Patreon. YouTube, again, it's a great place to start, but there's a lot of distraction. That's a place where you can go and get inspiration and say, hey, I'm committing, I'm paying $3 or $5 or $10 a month, whatever you choose, whatever feels good to you. Just say that I'm going to make a change in my life, and I'm going to be there to support you through it. And that's a place if you have questions, if you want to message me, and you want to have more direct connection to me, and also just get more access to all the things I'm doing on a much deeper level, click on the Patreon. And regardless, go be your beautiful, wonderful, magical self, because you are loved, and I love you, and I love me, and the world, everything is wonderful. So step out of the way of all the fear and start to look at it and let it go, and then who you actually are will just come through. You don't need to tell anyone who you are. You can just be who you are and let that shine. See you soon.